Is Dale Earnhardt Jr. and iRacing about to buy Motorsport Games? Yeah, according to a late Friday night 2022 Q3 earnings call to investors, the company might be looking for a buyout or a team-up with another gaming company, but they have less than 30 days to make a deal. What does this mean for NASCAR and IndyCar gaming fans? We'll break it all down today on Shifting Gears. I'm Alan Bailey, and before we get started, make sure you smash the subscribe button to stay up to date on the latest videos and log on to AmericanRacingNetwork.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Oh boy, if you haven't heard about the Motorsport Games saga over the last 2.5 years, give or take, boy are you lucky. Let me give you a quick overview. The company originally started in 2019 as a spin-off of Motorsport.com and the Motorsport Network. And they started buying up smaller gaming companies and calling the games developed by those gaming companies their own, including R-Factor 2, NASCAR Heat Evolution, NASCAR Heat 2, NASCAR Heat 3, NASCAR Heat 4, NASCAR Heat 5, Karting Craft, and NASCAR Heat Mobile. Then in 2021, they released their first and so far only true in-house product, NASCAR 21 Ignition, which was basically a Frankenstein of problematic R-Factor stock car driving physics and new layouts developed from photos and not track scans over the last 3 years, overseas by non-NASCAR gaming fans. And it pretty much failed. NASCAR 21 Ignition is by far the worst NASCAR game ever built. Both critically and financially, it is the worst, hands down. Then, to help them financially, they ported over NASCAR Heat 5 to the Switch and called it NASCAR Heat Ultimate Edition. And it didn't do well either. Then in 2022, they planned on basically reskinning the NASCAR 21 game and updating it with the 2022 roster, but because 21 was such a big failure critically and financially for them, they knew that it would have been a failure if they put out NASCAR 22. So instead, they canceled it. And what would have been that game was instead released as a free 2022 DLC, and the same thing with the 2021 Port Switch game that didn't do well either, and they called it NASCAR Rivals. The reason it did bad is because core fans knew it was a 2-year-old game, and new fans simply did a Google search and saw the reviews of the past products of this company and didn't even bother, nor should they have. Since Motorsport Games got desperate, they started building DLCs with new skins for past games, including a 2022 season DLC for NASCAR Heat 5, a 2.5-year-old game. But then they ran into programming issues and couldn't fix the bugs, so they pushed it back to date unknown, and as of mid-November 2022, we still don't officially know when or if that DLC will ever come out. Then, late last night, as of this recording and post of this video, there was a legally required quarterly investor call for the 2022 Q3 earnings that ended on October 30th, 2022. And it's bad. Listen, if you want to hear the entire 30-ish minute audio file, it's in the link in the description below, but I pulled the important and interesting stuff, and first things first, around the halfway point, the big question, how's the company doing financially? And things are not so good.
We expect to continue to incur significant operating losses. As a result, we will need to grow our revenues to reach profitability and positive cash flows. We expect to continue to incur losses for the foreseeable future as we continue to develop our product portfolio and invest in development of new game titles. As of October 31, 2022, the company had approximately $1.8 million of cash and cash equivalents, which we believe is insufficient to fund our current operations for the remainder of 2022.
Yeah. They've been saying for months that they don't have enough money to get through the rest of the year, but now he's saying it in essentially a pre-written script that he's reading as his opening statement. So you know things are pretty darn bad, and keep in mind only $1.2 million of cash on hand, and remember that number because it is going to be so important later on. But you might ask yourself, what does one do in order to find some money? Do you simply cut costs, or do you actually go outside the company and look for additional revenue? And the answer is going to have to be the latter, unfortunately.
We continue to explore all options available. Those options still include different types of form of debt financing. There's a couple of options in equity type of financing. There is options from the main shareholder with the existing credit line. However, of course, we're not sure whether there's going to be ability or not to fund. That is something that's up to them. But all those options are still on the table. They are being explored. And you're absolutely right with the assumption. We have to come up and announce something fairly quickly here to continue to support the growth of this business.
He seems optimistic right there, but he shouldn't be, because according to other reports in the past few years, there's actually already been an attempt by Motorsport Games multiple times by multiple firms to get additional income and basically cash flow into the company in order to keep it afloat, and essentially investment banks looked at them for potential debt consolidation. Employees from those companies state basically that, yeah, there's no money here. There's no reason, because they do not have assets. The only thing that they have that's worth anything is the car collection that is in the lobby at the Miami offices. But he's saying, oh, well, we have to come up with something quick there, which leads me to believe that the CEO is trying to push this off as, oh, it's not my fault. His tone doesn't match the situation at all, and it's off-putting. Yes, he has to stay positive for the investors on this call, but at the same time, he's saying things like, come up with something quick, as if he's not the one that has to do it. You're doing it. Be an adult and come up with something, like maybe cutting your own salary, which is reportedly inflated to over 500%, well into the millions of dollars every year. So I'd start there personally in order to keep my company afloat, if I was an ethical person that actually wanted to keep this company afloat. I don't think the CEO does, according to other reports and a ton of other evidence. So the question is, will there be any changes to the 2023 gaming lineup in order to, frankly, get to 2023?
That's another good question. We actually haven't made any changes to the anticipated delivery dates of those products. What we have done is optimize the amount of tools that we invest in. So basically focusing on making our development processes more efficient, so they do not require as much time to develop the product as we previously anticipated. There's more automation in the testing processes that we have also implemented, certain type of tools on how tracks, vegetations, and other elements that are necessary inside our racing games are being created and populated as content within the game. So those are the type of efficiencies that we're also focused on, which basically allow us to get to the end result quicker. However, that speed is still, we invest on making sure that the products are well polished before we bring them to market. But we currently do not anticipate delays from what we have previously said will be our 2023 releases.
That's off-putting to me, because they simply do not have the money in order to get to that point and to invest in these games. You have to put a lot of money into development of the games, particularly the game physics and mechanics. You got to make sure your game works, Motorsport Games. But these guys are cutting corners in the game. He said it right there. There's no change to the product roadmap, meaning that the game lineup for 2023 is supposedly still on track, but at the same time they're cutting corners, which means tracks and environments are not going to look proper. They're going to be a little off, and probably most importantly is they're not going to be accurate, which, if you're building an arcade game, sure, just create something from scratch, but if you're trying to build a sim community, that is the worst possible decision that you can make. So we already have now confirmed that they're going to diminish the quality of the games even further, which is pretty alarming, because we all saw that footage of NASCAR 21 Ignition. But I know why you're here. It's because of what I said earlier. Are they actually going to team up with another company potentially? The question was asked, and this was his response.
One thing that I could say is that all the, let's call it, usual suspects or the larger players in the industry are aware of us. We have had some form of communications with quite a few of them, and we are exploring different types of options. I cannot particularly say which options they are with them. I wouldn't say there's anything definitive, but if there's some sort of proposals that would come from their side, we would definitely explore.
In other words, bring on the offers. Motorsport Games has openly invited other racing development gaming companies to come forward and let's talk business. Maybe they will amend their contract with NASCAR and allow other companies to sort of share the rights with NASCAR for a fee in order to keep them afloat. Frankly, that's my preferred outcome, because I would love to see iRacing / Monster Games, who did the NASCAR Dirt to Daytona series 20 years ago and did the Tony Stewart, the SRX, and the Sprint Car games recently that are so critically acclaimed and loved by the fan base. So I think that maybe leasing those rights out to this other gaming company could potentially give us multiple products in the marketplace again, which is something we haven't had for almost 20 years now. And it, at the same time, would allow Motorsport Games the opportunity to frankly work on a product a little bit more. Go back home, do your homework, work on this product, really show us what you got. Hire good people, give them the time and the resources in order to build a good game, while people who do know how to build a good racing game can take care of the market in the meantime. And we potentially could see two companies go head to head with multiple NASCAR games, multiple IndyCar games in the market. It would be huge for the gaming community, the console gaming community, but also the PC gaming community as well. I hope that this is the outcome. I really, 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 really do. Please, Dale Jr., NASCAR Jesus, make this happen, because it needs to happen. But the clock is ticking for this company. They do not have a whole lot of time in order to get their ducks in a row financially. They basically have about a month left before they have to close the doors or find money to pay people and start laying people off. And yes, that is on the horizon. And there's a very interesting way that he spun this in this call.
Everything that we anticipated with our 2022 restructuring plan has been already executed. Of course, we'll continue to explore additional areas of savings to reduce our cash burn potentially further. However, the company is currently in its lean position and focused on the development resources. And in those particular departments, we are expanding and investing in. So anything towards the better good of our product and the future product roadmap is where the focus and resources are all going. So we would not look for making any reduction in those areas, because that's quite honestly our livelihood, right? We are a product-based company, and we have to bring those good products to market. And until we do so, we will continue to invest. So we're incentivized to bring them as soon as possible, but at the same time, not sacrifice quality or the gaming experience that our fans would enjoy.
Oh, there's a lot to dissect in just that clip right there. Remember earlier when he said that they were cutting corners in the game around the 16-minute mark of the call? Well, he just contradicted himself right there, because he's claiming now, no, we're not making any cuts to the game development, the product development, no cuts. Our company is lean. It's our 2022 restructuring plan, which is code for we fired the board because they didn't want to find money the way we did. And it's just so shady, so dicey, man. I honestly have no idea how this guy hasn't been called out and investigated for investor fraud, because it's very obvious that's exactly what he's doing. They're stretching the truth, and then there's straight up fraud, and this guy is definitely in straight up fraud territory. I know what you fans are going to ask, especially you, Gary. What about the NASCAR Heat 5 2022 update DLC that's going to cost around $10? It was supposed to come out already, and it's been pushed back with no official date. Well, it came up in the call, and surprisingly, yeah, maybe a little hint of what could come.
So we have one more product release. We actually have seen our NASCAR franchise fans are still playing our 2020 title, the NASCAR Heat 5 title. quite a few players are still in there enjoying themselves. So we thought, why not give them a 2022 content update? So we're still working on a couple of final polishes to deliver that content pack to them. So that'll be an interesting one, because I don't think our company in its history has provided this type of update to a product that's essentially 2 years old. But we recognize that's what our players are enjoying. So we'd like to give them some additional content that would further increase their enjoyment.
Yeah, he's spinning it so that it's a positive, but it's desperation, folks, because you don't put out a DLC for a 2-year-old game unless you're scratching and clawing and looking for any penny you can, and there's massive issues with that 2022 update for Heat 5, and honestly, I'd be surprised if it ever sees the light of day at this point. I hope it does at some point. I love me some Heat 5, but frankly, if it's going to wreck my game, I do not want it in my game. But with only $1.2 million in cash assets on hand, you gotta ask yourself, what is the monthly upkeep of Motorsport games, and how much longer can this ship stay afloat?
So our normal monthly burn rate is still around that 1.5 million or so range, like we previously stated. So I think it's fair to assume that plus what we would potentially lay out or actually have for creation of those game cards could move that needle somewhere between 1.5 to 2 million on the monthly burn rate.
Yeah, that's right. Because they decided to put out the NASCAR rival game in 2022 as a desperate attempt to keep the license for NASCAR, at this point it is safe to say that they have less than 30 days, which means by December 1st, 2022, Motorsport Games could go out of business. Is that final and official? No, but it is more than likely going to happen. Simply put, the employees that are overworked, overstressed, underappreciated, and underpaid at this point, not having paychecks hit their bank account, are not necessarily going to be good for business. But you might ask yourself, what happened with the board of directors? We heard reports last week that the entire board were asked to resign, and finally, some investor asked the question as the very last question.
Fair question. The part about the independent board members, right, as were stated in the 8K and other disclosures, right, the main shareholder pretty much asked the independent board members to resign as a result of a disagreement on the proposal of such directors to raise additional capital. And that's obviously for the company in transactions that would require shareholder approval as a first, but it would also be potentially very dilutive to all stockholders based on where the stock has been. So those members have accepted that, and that's what you have seen in the recent news. However, we do plan to, of course, invite other independent board members. Part of that, our interim CFO, who was just recently with us, was able to step in and serve as our new member of the audit committee and one independent board member. We obviously have, according to the NASDAQ letter, 45 days to provide a plan to the NASDAQ staff on how we would fill at least 2 other seats to be in compliance with the audit committee composition of 3 of such members. So we're actively having conversations with those type of candidates. And because John Delta had to step down from the interim CFO capacity and go to be our independent board member, and previously when John Yu was our CFO, that put me in a position to actively search for a more permanent CFO role. So currently, you're absolutely right. The focus continues to remain on, from my side of the office, is to solve our liquidity, and I am exploring all those available options. Therefore, finding and filling a CFO role is something that I will switch gears to more actively as soon as we're able to address our liquidity concerns.
According to NASDAQ law, they have 45 days to find 2 seats. That is roughly Christmas Day 2022. And they're inviting new members right now. Although why anyone would decide to get on the board of this company at this point is beyond me. After that question, the call ended extraordinarily abruptly. Wonder why? I think he said a little too much right there, but good for us, bad for them. Everything that is happening with this company leads me to believe that they will be dead by Black Friday 2022. That is just my pure gut instinct on how this company has progressed. Now, maybe they'll last until December 1st, 2022, but I think by Christmas 2022, this company will be dead, buried, and gone, and definitely shuttered. And at that point, in all likelihood, this means that the rights for NASCAR games, British Touring Car Championship, IndyCar, and of course the 24-Hour of Le Mans will revert back to their respected organizations, and we likely won't see an official game from any of those organizations for at least 2 years, maybe a year and a half, depending on how another company can pick up the rights quickly. And management at iRacing and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who is involved with iRacing and Monster Games, have expressed interest in doing NASCAR games again, which, knowing how Dale leaks his own news on Twitter often, leads me to believe that conversations have already happened with NASCAR signing the rights over to iRacing/Monster Games moving forward. Currently, the rights for NASCAR games reside with Motorsport Games until the year 2030. Yeah, we have 8 more years of this company. Part of me is split. Part of me really wants to see this company go under immediately so that the rights for these games can go to people who know how to run a company, respect the source material, and deliver a quality product. And at the same time, I'd like the rights to be shared with Motorsport Games and with another company that can do these organizations proud and actually create not only a good racing product for those series, but also create competition within these gaming companies. Whether or not that happens is remain to be seen, but almost 20 years ago we had multiple NASCAR games on the market and all were pretty phenomenally good. And it was only when the gaming rights diverted to a single gaming company developing a single product did the product start to slip drastically. Sincerely, I feel horrible for every single one of the employees at Motorsport Games. My understanding is that a lot of them are phenomenal people who are putting their heart and soul into these games, trying to make them good, but unfortunately, bad business deals and frankly rushed scheduling has forced management to put unrealistic goals on these people, creating an extraordinarily hostile work environment according to detailed complaints filed by official ex-employees of Motorsport Games. I think the company will be dead and gone within a few weeks here, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. It could end up on the show, and you can help support the channel for free by hitting the subscribe button, liking this video, and sharing it on your social media accounts. It means so much. Thank you. You can also follow me on social media at HeyAlanBailey and log on to AmericanRacingNetwork.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Thank you so much for watching. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.